I would like to explain why people don't believe any of these stories or events that take place in the Christian community as far as the supernatural stories or events. Now, keep in mind I am a former exorcist, but I'm also extremely logical, which doesn't really get you far in the church. I was going to the Exorcist Church doing what Jesus did by Reverend Bob Larson. It was his um, ministry, and a woman brought a friend from Jordan who ran a Christian ministry of some sort. And as soon as he got inside, he started scanning the room, and I knew immediately this guy is going to target the pretty women and find a reason to start touching them. It was like I had seen it already. It just came directly to my mind. And sure enough, that's exactly what he did. He went up to the first woman, saying that the Lord told him that he was to place his hands on her and rub off the sin and rub the blessing onto her. Holy shit. No one put a stop to this right away. Well, I confronted the woman who brought him because she was in leadership, and I said, "Why do you think that it is acceptable to let this guy into the church and start rubbing his hands all over women's skin?" And she looks up at me and puts her hands out and starts screaming, "Sean, blah, 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 blah." She was thinking that she was speaking in tongues and that she was using her power she got from God to flush this evil spirit out of me because who am I? Who do I think I am to say that a stranger that's never met these women should not just start using God as an excuse to start touching them all over the place? When she finished, I said, okay, so why do you think that's acceptable? Nothing. She just kept loading the car like nothing happened, but she looked like she felt like an idiot, which is good. There was another time I went to a charismatic church, and as a group, we all went out to see Joshua Mills. Well, unfortunately, only about four of us were able to make it. It was interesting, and that's a story for another time. But I'll tell you this, the gold dust that appears when he preaches did appear. They had a diamond that was like 10 carats or bigger that fell from the heavens, apparently, and it was making its rounds, and I brought a loop with me just in case that happened. And I looked at that diamond. I could tell when I felt it that it was 100% fake. It was a polymer. It was a clear polymer with rounded edges. So that was debunked immediately. When we got back to the church leader, a woman, said that the heavens had opened up and we saw God and their angels reaching out to us. And the angels parted, and God said, "You, my humble and faithful servants," blah, 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 blah. And lightning came down, and blah, blah, blah. She just went off on this whole thing. I'm watching this woman thinking, holy God, wow, this is just crazy. Then she says, Justin was there. Tell them, Justin. And I was like, I can't contest to any of that, but yeah, there was a diamond that fell. I did see this, and I did see that, and then the gold dust thing did happen. Ooh, she was so angry. She was so angry. She kept giving me glares. And the next week when I went to church, she was telling everybody that I was actually an agent of the Satanic Church and I was sent there in order to win the people over, to turn them against her because of blah, 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 blah. She's just so powerful with God and blah, 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 blah. You see, when it comes to mental health issues, a lot of different types of mental health problems, psychological disorders, will lead someone to flock to religion for a different reason. When you get the really bad narcissist, they flock to religion. And again, because it could be any religion, but because Christianity is the religion of the United States, that tends to be the most common one they flock to. My sister is a psychopath, and she tried to become a church leader in multiple different churches, and she scammed them out of thousands of dollars. And it just, oof, ooh, not good. Then she created her own religion where she's in the middle of it all. She gets to control it. She once told me that she was jealous of me for being a church leader because I could control people and she wanted that control over people too. And I was like, wow, no, I do not control people. I submit to people. It's completely different. She's like, yeah, but it's the way they view you, the way they look up to you. I don't know anything about that. But wow, the way a narcissist thinks. Some people, they live with severe anxiety and depression, and they flock to religion because they need a sense of comfort. Some people have been mistreated so much in life and they're so afraid to stand up for themselves and do the right thing. They flock to religion because it gives them a reason to be a coward. And they're like, I'm courageous for not doing anything because I have faith in God that it will be God's will that takes place and God will correct the issue. So, when you get so many types of these personalities, all flocking to religion, whichever the main one's going to be, which here is Christianity, what you get is a lot of ignorant people who don't know anything about the belief system, who never read their Bible, all saying things that are just stuff that they make up or things that they repeat from the church, and the church doesn't tell you the truth because the church is controlled. The teachings are created by those people. There's been two churches, three churches I've been to that are not like that. And I have been to a lot of churches. You know, I once went to a church in Bakersfield, and I was at the top of my game at that time when it came to my relationship with God. And the pastor and I were talking, and a woman, I don't know who she was, she kept looking at me, and I thought, okay, this woman keeps looking at me. Chances are she's going to find an excuse to come up and talk to me. She's going to want to hold my hands and pray and crap like that. I don't want people touching me. Don't touch me. And sure enough, at the end, she came up and said that she saw a demon of alcoholism on me. And she could tell that I had been struggling with alcohol. And which was funny was I had no desire for alcohol. None. I never dealt with cravings for alcohol or alcoholism. My father is an alcoholic. So I never, fortunately, I just did not get that gene, you know. Later on, years later, some stuff would happen because the things my ex-wife would do to me, but I won't get into that. Right back to where I used to be, I could have a single drink, not even finish it, pour it down the sink, fine. Totally not an alcoholic. And this woman kept saying that she could see I was lying, trying to cover it up because of the shame. And I'm thinking, this pastor needs to put his congregation in line. And he was just looking at her, and I'm thinking, you're the pastor. You need to tell her to sit down and to stop, and that the service is over and please leave because she's being inappropriate. But he did not control the congregation, which the leader of the church always needs to do. Being a Christian, understanding how the supernatural works, understanding that well over 90% of these, well over 95% really, of these stories on supernatural things that have taken place are lies. I understand why you would have to be crazy to believe someone just because they give you their word that that really happened. I'm fortunate that people know that I tell the truth. I've told people about some things that happened that were supernatural, people who don't even believe in it, and they take my word for it, and they know it happened. Now the question is can science ever discover why these things happened? I think they will someday. But when you look at the type of people within Christianity, the ones that are loud and flamboyant, and the things that they say, and you compare that with reality, and you learn their behaviors, and you see what they're like, and you can start to predict the miracles that they're going to tell you about, then you'll understand that there's simply, it simply can't be true. I remember one gentleman at another church was constantly talking about all these supernatural workings that happened in his life. And finally, one day, when he was going off on it, I realized this guy is repeating all the stories from Pastor Benny Hinn's books. And I told him something that I was telling him about something I experienced, and he cut me off. He went off and off and off. And then when he was done, I said, okay. And then I continued what I was saying. Then he started sharing my story as something he went through. It's not his fault. Mental health today, oh my gosh, it's bad, right? Mental health today is bad, and we don't have professionals out there that know what they're doing. And we have people who are going into that field who aren't taking it seriously enough in order to really understand it. So we're going to see more of this stuff. And if our religion in the United States moves from Christianity to something else, we'll still see this. I mean, it already did. We've moved from Christianity to a completely different belief, but we call this new completely different belief Christianity. So maybe that will happen. Who knows? But I understand why people don't believe anything that Christians say. Because I myself, as a Christian, cannot believe anything that a Christian says. I believe the things that those who I trust say. And I'll tell you this, when I hear someone use God as an excuse for why they did something, or why they told you you should do something, or they'll say God's gonna get you for treating me this way. I've heard that. Can I have some money? No. God's gonna get you for that. Wow, you're a demonic person. The most antichrist people, and I've said this a lot, the most antichrist people I have ever known in my life have always done their despicable actions in God's name or because God would forgive them. Which, if you read the Bible at all, you know what that means. But yeah, there are very few real Christians out there. Very few. And far between. And I can understand why you don't believe these stories on the sky opening up and the angels and God was there and he said, oh my gosh, that's just crazy, right? And this is also what drives people away from Christianity. Yeah, that's all.